her perspectives and experience of dealing with the social enterprises for over 2.5 decades now. She understands the pulse. She understands the way the social enterprises function in the country. And she has been also a very, very important part of the Social Stock Exchange Advisory Committee of SEBI. Over to Madam Pushpa for your perspectives, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, please. Yes.
Okay. So it's very nice to see a lot of my NGO sector friends as well as people from the other side of the table, the corporate side, a lot of enablers, and of course, friends with whom I've been working on the social stock exchange from concept to design to now implementation. I was just trying to check because for me, the SSE has been like now a part of my system for a very long time. So the first time I was inducted into this process was in 2020 September, when the technical group was set up to kind of detail out what a working group had put out together. And I must say, as someone from the nonprofit sector, often we hear people speak about not being engaged, our voice not being heard. But one really strong example, which I often quote about collaborative effort, is uh, the formation and the journey on the social stock exchange. I think we had powerful voices from the social sector around every table of engagement, and it's been a journey all these years, and we still continue to be speaking with people at SEBI, at the SROs, at the exchanges, professional bodies outside of that. So it's been like a fantastic journey of talking, listening. And in this process, while the exchange itself takes off in a big way, for me, it's been deja vu because I came into the nonprofit sector in 2001. And without any hesitation, I can say that when I joined GIVE, it was the first charity exchange of the country. And it was something that was born out of the voluntary sector. And around the same time, similar exchanges sprung up across the globe, like Global Giving or GEXI, Greater Giving in South Africa, PCNC, and all of this across the world. And you might say that, if this experiment had started in 2001, two questions actually. Why has it taken so long for a SSC to be formed? Often every article talks about its failure, and I can see Parag here, who's doing his thesis on this and, grilled me a lot, and I pushed him back a lot on some of what he had heard from the others. And if you see, my introduction actually says why we care about the social stock exchange. Often people have asked me if I'm supporting the creation of something that will kill my organization or organizations that have been part of this sector. And if you know, and today, if we have invited a lot of our partners here, is because it's clear that we believe this is something very important, not for all of us on this call today, but the communities we serve on the ground. They are at the center of what all of us are trying to do. And I've been fortunate to be part of most of the bodies that have been created to operationalize the concept of SSE. So 2020 to 2026, the first amendment were announced in July 2023, I think, 24, and 25, sorry, I think 22, and in 23, 24. So roughly around 3 years of the SSC being around. Just want to throw this slide because people from the CSR side or others who do not know me would wonder in what capacity or what experience the insights I would share would come, or the advice I would share for all the participants. 16 years at GuideStar India, I've been really working only on public disclosure. And you will be happy to know that thousands of NGOs in this country have voluntarily been practicing transparency and public disclosure, holding themselves to account to the public at large and not just to their donors or the communities that they serve. And therefore, all of these years, so to say, the nonprofit sector has actually been preparing itself for this kind of a marketplace. So 21,000 plus organizations are on our platform, which is like the information repository for the nonprofit sector. Most of them have undergone vetting and reporting on about 50 parameters, but there are a good number who have gone through more than 1,000 parameters of checking. And they work on full transparency about the organization and very mindful of privacy of the individuals in that organization, be it the governing body members, the management, the staff, and the communities that they serve. And all of us here would be well advised about the DPDP Act that is upon us and would become applicable from May 2027. And this is something I've been voicing in all of our meetings. And our approach so far has been about self-regulation of the sector. So before SEBI put out the amendments, before the exchanges asked for disclosures, I'm happy to say that a great number of nonprofits in our country who actively access retail funding or CSR or even government funding, whether their donors ask or not, these organizations have been putting a whole lot of information in the public domain. They put it up on Darpan of Niti Aayog. They put it up on their Guidestar India transparency profiles. And they go well beyond compliance requirements. And they do this to tell their stories with facts so that they inspire giving and they seek partnerships with people who support their work. And they are happy to talk about their entire journey from inspiration to impact. So many of the frameworks that I was very fortunate to work with other members of the SSC advisory committee constituted by SEBI, we were very happy to share a lot of the learning from the sector. And many of our organizations are pretty familiar with the terminologies. And I must say, what we've actually done is we've married the concepts of the best practices in the corporate sector and the good practices of the nonprofit sector and have tried to kind of sensitize a lot. And I'm glad to say that all the members of the SSCAC at the exchanges, at SEBI, everyone has been engaging in conversations. And every time they have pushed back, it's been a lot of learning for us as well. So just to kind of put the universe, the various actors of the SSC, I was working on a dashboard and therefore I kind of just cut, copy, pasted the relevant portion. So you will see that there are a wide range of actors who you would be engaging with. Government, of course, which has kind of brought it to this. Had it not been for this notification, all of you wouldn't have been excited. And Vineet will tell you in a bit how they are experiencing the buzz in the last week at the exchange from both the nonprofits and the CSR side. Foundations are being part of the conversation. They are going to be enablers. They're also going to be participating in one way or the other. We engaged a number of foundations through our partner Dasra in this conversation. CSR, so the hero of the day, where the spotlight would be post recent amendment. And this was a big ask, right, from everyone. And therefore, there's a lot that both parties, I would say, CSR and the nonprofits would have to do to make this connect. It's not going to be exactly how you did CSR projects. It's going to be a world of opportunity for both sides. And I have one slide dedicated to each. HNIs, and I'll touch upon this when we talk about how CSR can be engaged. So I would like my NGO friends to start thinking about the different avatars that the people you engage with have. You may have engaged them as an HNI, but they are an industrialist on an NSE or BSE listed company, right? So we've got to start looking at all of these people on the different hats that they're wearing. And the beauty of the SSC universe is you're going to be able to engage people who you had in your contact list categorized in one box for one type of fundraising. Now you might be able to involve and engage them in very exciting ways. And I would see the SSC as great opportunity for collaborative philanthropy to celebrate giving for the companies itself. Retail investors, as I think there's going to be an explosion of retail investors. We've been talking about this, and I think I'm fairly decent at selling dreams. I did that at Give. I did that at Guidestar. Before we launched our platform, there were 716 NGOs online to be exact, and today there are 21,000 plus. So I think the people on this call are, like you said, Dr. Gupta, early movers. And they're here because they're going to be there before everyone else because they are risk takers and they're optimists, I suppose. I'm sure there will be a few to sober us with their pessimism as well. The NPOs, of course, are here as the other heroes. I'm not going to talk about, or none of us is going to talk about, the for-profit enterprises today. The whole lot of service providers, enablers, ecosystem builders like us on the nonprofit side, on the government side, as well as the corporate side, and the markets, of course, on the stock exchange, specifically the capital market side. There'll be a number of distribution channels part of it, and then academia, like people like Parag, who's on this call, and the media who are watching, writing various things. And I hope some of them are here so that they can also learn about different perspectives of this. So since our NGO friends are patient and they would normally stay beyond the call time if required, I would first address what is in it for those from CSR. And I hope everybody is not like super multitasking at the moment, looking at messages on their phones. So I'd really request about 5 minutes of your attention on this. So for the corporate sector, the best thing about the SSE is you have a familiar, credible marketplace. So when we were breaking our heads since 2001 at Give, of course, we had the blessings of being a part of the ICICI family to begin with, but a SEBI-regulated, credible marketplace, just as it does great good for a listed company, I think this is going to really be the key part of the architecture that is going to inspire trust for all parties. And for the companies, I would say that, instead of just depending on what a whole lot of individuals would have vetted projects, you put out an RFP, you have like a mountain of proposals or overflowing drive of proposals that you can't even go through or sift through. Here you have a ready-made catalog of deeply vetted projects and organizations, projects that have been developed using logical frameworks which are integral to work in the social sector, and very clearly stated inputs, activities, outputs, outcome, and the impact assessment frameworks, the reporting framework. You see everything up front. So when you look at a fundraising document on which you can also comment, because the draft documents are put up on SSE and NSE and BSE, so you get to comment on that. You can ask questions in that window of 21 days. But prior to these documents coming there, and the ones you see currently, may not be really what I am talking about today, because they're all version 1, 2, 3, 4. As the exchange has been evolving, we have been improving a lot of the frameworks and seeing where the gaps are. And there's rapid learning and rapidly developed or evolved versions. In the interest of time, I would say that the projects are very, very clearly seen, observed, conversations happen with the nonprofits, and projects that they think that they can implement their own approach and what they want to hold themselves to account, the indicators that they want to use. So these are not forced upon the organizations. These come from years of experience of these organizations on the ground, and they present it, and these questions are asked by teams that do the due diligence. The organizations themselves are vetted at multiple levels, and that's actually point 7. I'll come back to that. And the best thing is the projects are community driven. So they're not in response to your RFPs. So you get to really go there and choose what you think has a good fit to your CSR strategy. And when I flip this for the NGOs, my next slide, I think when I was at Give India, this was the single most important point that NGOs appreciated, and I appreciated as a matchmaker or an enabler, because you see so many needs on the ground and they may not fit into people's lists or preferred areas when you're going one-to-one, but when you're coming to the market, you can craft your project. So I know that some consultants and some NGOs are going to be uncomfortable, and some fundraisers, because you're used to responding to what somebody wants. But here's an opportunity to create what really is needed. You can also, for the corporate, meaningful type of funding, because I don't know, we'll wait for the clarification, the FAQs, maybe at the next call. But from my early conversations with the decision makers, I think you don't, these are not projects where the money has to be used in a year. Possibly there's a 3-year window. And it is not just your own contribution, right? You would be giving 10% of your CSR budget, which might be a small amount of money to experiment. But since the money is pooled from various classes of investors, retail investors, other companies, etc. So the 10%, as NSE and SEBI would clarify, is 10% of the year's annual expenditure on CSR, your own budget. That is the 10%. So you can invest it in different projects of interest, different organizations you want to try with, or in the organizations that you already support. But if they are listing and putting out a project, you might want to be like the enabler or the catalyst, where you get a huge multiplier effect. The other aspects is, since I showed you the universe of the SSE, if the corporate can also promote this among its employees, its suppliers, its vendors, its partners, customers, investors. So like during Dan Utsav every year, India has been celebrating the week of giving. Actually, it's great when you celebrate giving with people you do business with or you work with the families of your staff. So everyone comes together to make something happen. And even though the project might seem like somebody created based on their need on the ground, and you're trying to match your strategy, your focus area with it, it doesn't mean that I would think, and I would advise our NGO partners to make their projects a bit modular wherever possible, so that the corporate gets to pick a part of the project that they can say that we are actually contributing towards this. And as someone who's worked with nonprofits for 25 years, I can say that all of this can be managed, the reporting, with utmost transparency, with the every rupee that is spent tracked to every project at every module. It's all possible, and our NGO partners are great at tracking, how money, and maybe not for all projects, but some projects it should be possible. And finally, I would say that for CSR managers and corporates, enjoy the ease of giving that comes with this. A lot of the grunt work that you might be doing yourself at suboptimal costs, we all know that, I've moved from the corporate to the nonprofit sector. And in our corporate avatars, our per hour is very, very expensive and makes things unviable. But in the nonprofit sector, many of us work at a fraction of our cost. There's a lot of volunteer hours that come into it, and many things become feasible that you may not be able to do with your corporate at the corporate desk. And here there are and here I would say too many cooks will not spoil the broth, because the NGO is the one who is steering the project and taking all the key decisions. You get to participate in a piece of that with others, and you get to experiment, and you get to see the results. And if I may say, you can take the aggregate report and inform your shareholders, but with the honesty that what percentage of that slice is what you contributed towards. But I think it's going to be like a happy picture to report to all your stakeholders. So I would kind of say, and I missed point 7. So while the NPO is vetted once while it's listing, it makes multiple disclosures given the SEBI framework. Just as a corporate, there is also all the material changes have to be reported within 7 days. There is annual financial reporting, governance reporting, program reporting. The listed project goes through social impact assessment by qualified impact assessors, who are all kind of, go through the SEBI framework. At NISM, where I wear a hat on the examination committee, their capacities are being strengthened so that they are qualified to do all of this. And before I'm kind of pushed out of the thing for the next speaker, for the NPOs, you heard me say a lot of things, but yeah, the same things. It's SEBI regulated. It's a credible marketplace. I know how many of you have often expressed concerns about certain matchmakers or enablers or platforms that approach you, people asking you for money up front, or people kind of not being very transparent about what the donor contributes. All of that goes out here. This is a very credible place. Like I said, your project is community driven, not donor driven. You go through a lot of these disclosures and you develop the projects. You will get a lot of capacity building support from the exchanges and from the enabler organizations, hopefully from the SROs also. You will create projects of a meaningful size. And like I said, you will engage your givers. So like in many of our workshops we'll ask you to do your network mapping. And when you map your network, you may have engaged with an individual in one capacity. Just try to see what other roles they have in their full life. There would be a parent somewhere, there would be a grandparent somewhere, there would be a philanthropist, a family foundation leader, a corporate network president. So kind of see all their avatars and see when you come out with your listing where exactly you're going to tap into them. And you would be able to multiply your impact, I would say, because initially it might seem like the cost of fundraising is high here, but your ticket size is going to be, or your project size can be bigger. And over a period of time, it will drive efficiencies. And I would say if you can meet the requirements of listing a project, you would have ticked all the boxes for all the funders, and over a period of time they would start using this as a marker, like we see in GuideStar. We are not, our certification is not mandated by anyone, but every single day we get to know how somebody has used it, and some funder decided to just go with the certification, or even some regulator decided to give you some bonus points, and the trust factor went up because you had a third party certification. So with that, I would say, for everyone on this call, list your questions and concerns, put them in the chat or wherever. Check your own readiness, because all these frameworks are available online. Okay, SSE, both BSE and NSE have all their checklists upfront. Express your intent to the exchange, whether you're a corporate or an NGO, and attend, like Dr. Gupta said about a workshop very soon at GuideStar India. We will keep doing meetings and workshops, and keep a 2-year horizon, because you may be at different stages of readiness, either as a corporate or an NGO. Like for many organizations, the 12-year renewal was like a big hump, and everything kind of came to stand still for the entire SSC for 6 months. So, getting your accounts audited. All I want to say before I end is, every single objection that the NGO sector had, and I used to raise them actually on your behalf at every forum, all of them have got addressed. And full marks to SEBI for really championing this and getting all the inclusions done, all the deadlines from the first amendment to now, everything has been smoothened out. So I don't think now anybody can have any excuse to say this is not a place for me. It would be a matter of time, but it would not be like this doesn't work for me. Okay. With that, I hand it over to you, Dr. Gupta. Thank
Thank
you
you
for
so
the time.
much, madam, for sharing your perspectives and giving a broad canvas of the opportunities, the mindset change which is required, and the huge challenge also to do the matchmaking kind of thing between NGOs and the corporates which are mandated to do CSR expenditure. Thank you so much, madam. We'll come back to you when the Q&A session starts. Now, I would request Mr. Vineet Shastri, Associate Vice President, Social Stock Exchange from the National Stock Exchange, to provide to us the perspective from the exchanges side, because that is where the registration of NGO happens and that is where the listing actually happens. So let's hear out from the exchanges perspective how exactly they are looking at the whole concept, evolution, and status of social stock exchange over the period of last 3.5 years that it has evolved. So over to Mr. Vineet Shastri, please.
Thank you, Gupta ji. Thank you, Pushpa ma'am, and Rajesh ji. Thank you to all the participants for taking out time and to become a part of this momentous conversation. I think these are just a few initial ones where we are setting the groundwork. As Gupta ji also said, that this is a stage where we are exploring the regulation, we are exploring the implications, and as an exchange, it's a very good platform for us also to get the relevant questions and inquiries, so that we can go back to the regulators. Rajesh ji is here, and we can kind of come back with the right clarification, so that the drive for this increases significantly over the next couple of weeks and months. Gupta ji, I'll just share my screen.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
My screen is visible?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
So the initial part of my conversation will be around SSE itself, a bit of evolution, and then we'll kind of deep dive into what are the changes that have happened. And two parts is where I would want to focus. One is why this change is not a surprise, and it's a very welcome move, and it is something that has to be looked at from an evolutionary perspective and not just a what do you say, regulatory enablement. We'll say talk about that this is not a one time thing. This is something which is the regulators and the government in their wisdom have been kind of envisaging for years together. And second is what implications it carries for the whole ecosystem, including the NPOs as well as the corporates. Just few slides around the history of NSE, SSE, the whole ecosystem, how it has evolved. We all know it kind of came into being from the budget speech of 2019-20. The exchanges were then formally established by NSE and BSE. The platforms were enabled 2023. We're completing 3 years now. We'll talk about a bit about the numbers as well. Just a brief about what are the two routes that are usually available to us. I think we'll focus more on the upper side, which is for non-profits. We have the basic eligibility criteria, which has been kind of progressively readdressed over a period of time. Different enablers have been made possible. For example, we are looking at the coupon size, or the donation size coming down from say 2 lakh to 10,000 to 1,000. The successful issue limit coming to 50% of the overall issue size or the listing size. This is the instrument that we talk about, zero coupon, zero principal. Again, we all are familiar with this. The eligibility conditions, so the idea that I want to communicate through this is that over the last couple of years, a lot of conversations have happened saying what is the success of SSE, or is it the right time to evaluate saying that SSE has delivered the objective that it was envisaged with. The whole idea is that all these amendments have been working as a jigsaw puzzle, right, where we are trying to fit in different pieces together to enable the ecosystem step by step. These are the kind of eligible activities we all know about. Is the ABCs of where the projects can be designed. I just want to kind of draw your attention of the whole audience to this one slide, saying that SSE in itself is not a very unique concept globally. There have been precedents in the past from where India has learned, our regulators have taken note of this, our government has invested a lot to understand that what is the right enablement mechanism, right? So we'll, as you can see, there are multiple exchanges which have came into existence, which have not been, which could not survive over a period of time. From there is where we have learned. That is where the whole guidance or the learning experience kind of builds the fundamentals of how we have grown. This one slide actually captures everything that has happened in the social stock exchange for the last 3 years. Okay. We have 190 plus registered NPOs on NSE SSE. We have listed 16 projects successfully, raised 44.5 crore across diverse sectors. As we speak, we have a pipeline of 22 projects which have the potential to mobilize 95 crore. We have 950 plus donors participating, and the impact numbers are 3.11 lakh. So if we look at these numbers in isolation, right, many of the stakeholders will question, saying that SSE or the CSR ecosystem is 35,000 crore types, but SSE has been able to raise only 44.5 crore. But the thing that we have to kind of keep in mind is these 3 years were the building blocks, saying how does the ecosystem evolve. This is the conversation that we have had with the team, Rajesh ji's team at the regulatory level as well, saying that this is not a overnight conversation. This is not an overnight concept. This requires the level of grounding that it has received in the last 3 years. Just imagine 44.5 crore rupees have been given out by donors or investors where they had no benefit at all. Just some tax implications they could have shared, but this was not a earmarked money. This was not a regulatory requirement for them. Even though so, they have invested 44.5 crore. That's a huge amount. And with this welcome move of up to 10% of the CSR budget being allowed on NSE on the social stock exchange, this number has now moved to 3,000 crore plus overnight. That is the potential that the regulators and the government has entrusted on this ecosystem, saying that this ecosystem is now mature and grown to an extent and tested to an extent that this jump of 100 times is now acceptable, that this system can bear that load. Now, the whole idea for us has been, for the last couple of weeks, I'll more talk about the practical aspects or what we are observing from the exchange side happening in the market. What are the ecosystem queries as well as the response. what we have heard is there's a lot of enthusiasm. Just to give a couple of numbers offhand, we have seen almost 25 new NPOs getting registered or applying for registration in the last week. Uh, Quite a few new register or re-registrations have been initiated. A lot of NPOs have come back to us saying that now that the rule has changed, their access to funding has significantly improved, and there's a new channel available to them, and now they would want to come back to the platform, re-evaluate and kind of participate. From the from the corporate side, we have had a lot of curiosity in terms of how this will work, what will be their responsibilities, how this enabler will help, as Pushpaji was saying, that how it can kind of ease the giving part. So if not, I'm not wrong, we have close to 15 no say corporates reaching out to us and we reaching out to them to kind of do that capacity building session. So as with this forum, we are also participating in other forums where there is a lot of curiosity of how they should get executed, what are the building blocks. I'll just talk about four main areas of convergence where we see that corporate CSR and social stock exchange align. One is with respect to project design and impact reporting. Though we have had 16 projects, we have seen the design of NSE, design of social stock exchange being grounded in theory of change. The project design is vetted by our team rigorously. The same is something which is happening on the CSR side as well. So for years since the 2% rule came into force, the design of the projects and the impact reporting matrices have evolved significantly. Now there are very good templates available, very good project designs available. We have a lot of experts who have now developed thematic area wise reporting criterias. This is something that SSC will eventually kind of adopt as we go forward, because that will be an ask no, from the regulatory side as well. That it's not just about the money, but also the rigor of reporting and design, how we can improve and how we can be more cautious about it. The second part is capacity building and corporate alignment for SSC framework. For sure, the capacity building is not restricted to just getting the good work done for the corporates, but it's also for the NPOs. So when we work or we are having a conversation with the corporates, they're also helping us kind of design the capacity building in such a way so that onboarding onto the SSC platform becomes easy. We are having closed doors conversations with corporates to have, say, cohorts developed for their NPOs, right? So that we can have more and more participants come onto the platform. I'm sure many of you who are working with the corporates will hear from the respective donors very soon. The third part that we are seeing a lot of interest is how do we do opportunity acceleration, right? So few of the ideas that have come to us, we are still evaluating is, can we have pitching platforms where a mediator or a platform can enable CSR partners on one side and projects being pitched on the other side, and then there could be a matchmaking exercise. These are all exploratory ideas, but the whole idea that we want to communicate is there's a lot of enthusiasm, there's a lot of energy, there's a lot of drive in terms of what to expect next. There are a lot of experiments around this amendment. So the ask from mostly the NPO fraternity, as an experience from the exchanges, please invest in designing projects which are CSR ready. Right. So the template of DFRD is there. Please invest and put up good proposals, because there is quite a bit of CSR funds which is unlocked. There are partners, so there are corporates who are inquiring about how to go about it, and next couple of weeks and months are going to be very exciting in terms of them adopting it and giving out their commitments. It's a little preliminary, but I would want to share on this forum, Gupta ji, Rajesh ji, and Pushpa ma'am. We are very close to announcing, NSE's 10% commitment to SSE. This might happen very soon, as we can hear. So we might, as an exchange, have taken up that responsibility that the drive should happen from home. So something that is on the cards very soon. And the last part is democratizing giving. I'll again kind of take one leaf from what Pushpa ma'am was saying, that why not look at those different stakeholders from different lens, right? This amendment has enabled a lot in terms of opening up new avenues for funding. One part which is about democratizing giving. So as we were talking about retail focus, we are also as an exchange very actively sensitizing corporates that the giving part, though 2% CSR is now enabled, the 10% CSR is enabled, uh, the conversation now can reach to the corporate employees as well, where retail giving might be the next big avenue for social impact funding. I'll just give you one slide before which I'll take a quick pause. This is one study which is for how giving works in India. Just one part, that is the left hand side, I would want your focus is that cash giving in urban settings increases significantly, as well as cash giving or giving in general increases with higher level of education. So we are talking to corporates as and when we have. I would want all of you also to cite this study saying corporate employees educated who are in formal jobs, they have a very high propensity or very high inclination to donate. India last year donated close to 50,000 crore in cash. That's the outcome of this study as well as a ballpark number. Now SSE can become the next avenue where projects get listed and corporate employees can choose and donate to the cause which aligns to their area of interest. So this could be the next area of big move where we see a lot of retail participation happening, because now if corporates are spending 2% of their 10% of their CSR funds on SSE, might as well want to kind of seek support from their employees. So this could be one next conversation point as well. Coming back to the amendment, I think we are aware in terms of the nitty-gritties of the amendment, but the whole focus for us is as an exchange to work as an enabler to ensure that the participants of the platform are aware about the upcoming opportunities, as well as enable them to participate with as much as ease possible. So we have also put out a press release last week with as soon as the amendment was notified. There is a communication channel. We have a dedicated email ID for NSE SSE. Please feel free to promote that email ID and reach out to us. Our team is working very diligently to ensure that as a marketplace we are able to enable all the stakeholders, kind of facilitate the platform. So with this, Gupta ji, I'll take a quick
Sure,
pause,
sure.
and maybe we can come back to questions as the next part of this. Over to
Yes.
you.
Thank you so much, Vineet sir, for your very, very lucid presentation on the status and also the way forward for the social stock exchange, especially given this latest amendment with regard to CSR regulations. Thank you very much. I would now request Shri Rajesh Danjeti, Chief General Manager, SEBI, the regulator for this whole ecosystem of social stock exchange. Rajesh sir, we would like to hear from you the regulator's perspective with regard to the evolution and status of social stock exchange, and especially also in the context of this recent amendment to CSR rules. Over to Rajesh, sir.
Thank you so much, Gupta ji, and thanks for calling us here, sir. As a regulator, we are always at the forefront to ensure that if there is some social cause which needs to be addressed by us as part of the regulatory reforms, we are always happy to be there.
Thank
And
you.
let me also acknowledge Pushpa ji and Mr. Vineet for giving a very insightful into this entire social stock exchange, ecosystem. And actually it's a very big privilege to be here, sir. Thanks for calling us once again.
Thank you.
Let me start off with when we talk about India's social ecosystem. I'm sorry, I don't have any presentation. I'll be just referring to my notes, what I prepared. I thought let me just talk out of my hat and just off the cuff, whatever as a regulator we feel like. But these are my personal views as such. So kindly take all that. So what we generally talk about is that when we talk about the India's social ecosystem, we also talk about the scale, the diversity and commitment. But when we look at the NGO Darpan, which is the government's official portal for registration of the, NPOs, we see there are a lot of actually NPOs out there, more than 3 lakhs which are registered. But frankly, and it's probably a long of route to cover for us. It's a long way to cover for us that we have so many NPOs out there. But when we look at the number of NPOs which are coming onto the social stock exchange, they are very few. So there's an appeal to all those NPOs out there who are part of this, this discussion today. I think you should all be looking at raising funds from the social stock exchange. But let me talk about something more about the social stock exchange. We all understand that there has been a lot of impactful work being done by the NPOs out there, and but at the same time, we also know that the funding for the NPOs has been remained actually a very informal and fragmented, and it's most of the time it's relationship driven. So therefore, as we all know that because of the finance minister's speech in 2019, this is how the foundation was laid for a social stock exchange to be created. And SEBI actually had done a lot of work on this, along with a lot of you people out there who are there part of this discussion today, as well as people probably who are not here. That was basically the entire mechanism was to create a very structured, transparent, regulated mechanism to channel capital towards the social development just as efficiently as we have the financial markets channelizing the capital for the economic growth. So this is one of the ways this is how it should be done. And we have presently two very big regulations which is all about ICDR and LODR, and both of these are under the SEBI Act, which regulates this entire requirements of the social stock exchange mechanism as well as raising of funds from the social stock exchange. Just to give a brief to many of those participants probably who would be definitely aware of it, but few of them who are not aware, just a small point from my side. This distinct regulatory framework was created for the purpose of the social stock exchange, including the innovative instruments such as ZCZP, which Mr. Gupta has already talked about, and all of you already discussed about. This is to basically suit the need of the social sector, and the focus has been always, on impact-led disclosures through these regulations we have brought out and assessment of the social outcomes rather than the financial outcomes. This should be kept in mind at this juncture. And when we talk about ICDR, we have laid the regulations lay down some of those requirements for the SSCs, which is right from the eligibility conditions for the NPOs for the registration and listing, and what can be the permitted social activities which were aligned with the national development priorities, and what would be the disclosure requirements at the time of the fundraising, and what would be the conditions which would govern the utilization of the funds. So this actually in essence provides the entry activities and the fundraising requirements of the social stock exchange. Similarly, when you look at the LODR, when we talk about the LODR, which is to do with the continuous disclosure requirements. So therefore, there it is all about the timelines for the periodic disclosures by the NPOs, the reporting on the utilization of the funds, the ongoing compliance requirements, as well as the most importantly the social impact reporting and assessment timelines, which unlike the conventional listed entities where financial performance is central to their financial, they're showcasing the financial growth of them. However, under the SSC, the impact outcomes become the core metric of the accountability. So this, I think, is very important to be understood. And at the same time, I'd also like to say that both ICDR and LODR ensure that the SSC is not merely a fundraising platform, but actually we have, over a period of time, we have created a well-governed, social-driven, disclosure-driven, and impact-oriented ecosystem.
Yes,
That's
yes.
the most important point. And at the same time, what we have seen is that, the statistics has already been given by Mr. Vineet, and we have seen that there's been a lot of fundraising that has happened on the social stock exchanges. But at the same time, I think our feeling is that each successful listing actually reinforces the confidence in the framework. It demonstrates that the regulatory discipline and social purpose can actually coexist. And at the same time, there's a transparency which enhances not hinders the capital raising for social impacts. I think that's very important to be understood. And while the entire social stock exchange mechanism and the ecosystem is, there is a transparency which lies at the heart, is the transparency of, which is the most important part when we talk about the entire mechanism. And the framework, the way the framework has been put in place over a period of time after discussion with, all those practitioners out there and the committee, which many of you are a part of the committee, it actually very clearly details the project disclosures, and it also requires a very good articulation of the intended social outcomes, what is important, and the periodic reporting on the utilization of funds. So all these, I think the NPOs should be aware of. And that apart, there is a very big important issue of very independent social impact assessment. That's the most important point. And all this actually gives a very good, confidence to the donors that you're not only contributing funds to the social stock exchange, but also are able to understand how these funds are actually being used and what are the outcomes and how the outcomes are being actually achieved. Over time, this transparency will probably only strengthen the trust and encourage long-term engagement. Therefore, the NPOs are only required to be more clearer about their project objectives, and they should be very clear about their specified intended social outcomes, the disclosure of their fund utilization, and they should also be clear that they will require to be undergoing a very independent social impact assessment. Now, at the end, when we talk about the CSR, while we have aligned the eligible activities under the SSC framework with the permitted activities are permitted under the CSR, it's a very good move that the government has actually accepted, which was a culmination of a long, discussion with the government and with the committee, over a period of time. Today, we have been able to achieve that up to 10% of the CSR can be actually, can be put into the SSC Social Stock Exchange for all those NPOs who want to raise funds from there. And this platform is not only going to benefit all those NPOs out there, but also for the donors, because and the contributions they may be making to the eligible NPOs listed on the SSC actually qualify for income tax rebate under the ATG section ATG. I think that also I thought I should be explaining that. And this SSC gives a confidence that contribution by the eligible donors are not only eligible for tax benefits, but also being rooted through the verified, regulated, and compliant entities. I think that is very important. So therefore, it actually combines the tax efficiency with the transparency, the mechanism which has been implemented there. And at the same time, also like to say that SEBI is being very open in terms of taking suggestions from the markets. If you remember, Gupta ji, last time when we had met in the Bangalore, one of the sessions I was there.
Yes,
so
sir.
there
Yes.
I had actually received 2 or 3 suggestions actually. And very happy to share those 2 suggestions were actually implemented in a very swift way with the help of the committee and all of you, where the 2 suggestions were all about increasing the registration time period with the exchanges, as well as rationalizing the minimum fundraising from the social stock exchange, albeit with some guardrails. So that I think was a very good suggestion, and we are looking for more suggestions. I think our contribution would be looking for suggestions which are highly relevant and doable, and we would be taking those suggestions for actually implementing something more to be done in the SSS ecosystem.
Yes, sir. Yes.
With that, I could only say that we all together can only ensure that the SSC becomes a meaningful cornerstone of India's inclusive and sustainable development journey. I think I rest my talk here, sir.
Thank you so
I'll
much,
be open
sir.
to discussing anything else on this.
Thank you so much, Rajesh, sir, for providing us the regulatory perspective, the regulator's vision, and your openness to seek, suggestions as well as queries from the stakeholders, so that whichever are doable, you can immediately go for implementation of the same and changing the rules wherever required. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank
So
you so
it's
much.
time now to take a few questions. We have few questions in the chat box already. So maybe the 3 panelists can respond to some of the questions at least. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Gupta ji, good evening.
Good evening, sir. Ramesh Swami, sir.
Ramesh Swami. Sir, 2 questions very quickly. One is, of course, this 10% is a big amount. We're all talking of 3,000 crores. But when the idea is, if a small CSR company, with let's say 10 lakhs or 20 lakhs are there, the amount which they have as 10% is probably 50,000, 1 lakh, 2 lakhs, right? Now, they are going with certain NGOs already. They are not, their team is a small team. They are not going to be spending too much. They would want the entire 10 lakhs or 5 lakhs to be given off to SSC. That actually helps them immensely. But that provision is not available. If we can look at something which has a base minimum, say some amount, could be 50 lakhs, could be 20 lakhs. The amount is not important. Some amount where they say, okay, up to this barrier, it can be totally SSC. We will not, it will not come under the 10% barrier. This 10% is huge for foundations who are doing in crores. For them, it will make sense. So this is one suggestion to SEBI and all of you to look at it, because it could change the way a lot of smaller companies will look at SSC. But we want companies to look at SSC and make it happen, right? That is the important
Yes.
thing.
Yes.
Okay, that there are a lot of NGOs who have who started registering initially, and those have expired because they couldn't raise funds and all. Now they are excited again. Uh, can something be done, because their 2 year time is over, so they have to go for registration? A lot of those issues will come up. Can that be eased out because they have already paid once? Can that be eased out? Can something be done for them? Is another second kind of question, right? And of course, the 3 years timeline, those aspects are not yet clear. We don't know whether the amount paid can be kept for it. And again, 10%, if it is a 3 year project, is it 10% for 3 years which can be taken as the amount, right? So, in the sense, if somebody is wanting to give 1 lakh of rupees as 10%, it is a 3 year project. Can they actually pledge 3 lakh of rupees initially? So, saying that this will be over 10% through a 3 year period. So, these are some of the questions which could be looked at, and if that can be helped to us. And the fourth thing, which of course Vinitji talked about, the pledge from CSRs if they start coming. Hats off to NSE to think of pledging and talking about it in an open forum. I think he's put his neck out already. So, can we have many more such announcements happening, which will help a lot of NGOs to prepare fast and come into the whole gamut?
Thank you so much, sir. So, Mr. Shastri, Mr. Rajesh, would you like to respond to some of the observations of Mr. Ramesh Swami, sir?
As per the suggestions, what he has given, Mr. Ramesh has given, I think let me have a complete suggestion so that we can have a look at it, because
Sure.
probably it has
Sure,
been
sir.
briefly made, so we would like to have a complete understanding of the suggestion. Then probably we can
Sure.
always look at. But
Sure, sir.
let me be very, like you said, I would also like to put my neck out and say that if the suggestion is doable, we will do it, sir.
Yeah, very good.
You have done it before, sir. Thank you.
Adding my
Thank
thoughts
you.
as well. So, not representing NSE, but as an individual, we have also come across these suggestions. As Rameshji was saying, I think there's a more formal way where we can approach the regulators and the government for this. I think that 10% cap is for smaller expenditure is something that I've come across personally as well. Though as an exchange, we don't have an opinion unless there's a regulatory guidance around it. But this is a question which has come.
Sure. Thank you so much. Then we have a query in the chat box that there is an observation that it is quite cumbersome and costly for the NGOs in terms of time and even money to get listed on social stock exchange. Please let us know, has this become easier now?
I think I'll take a first step on this. Maybe Rajesh, you can
That's
help on
okay.
this.
Yes.
The regulatory design is such that we invoke confidence. So I can understand there is some amount of effort that goes into the overall process, but I think that process or that effort from the NPO side is what is making the ecosystem more say reliable and
Right.
credible. So that is required. But one learning is from the partners who have participated on the platform, who have registered, who have raised funds, is this is a one time, mostly it is a one time learning curve, right? Once you're above that curve, that recurring cost or recurring effort is goes down drastically, because you know the ecosystem, you know the drill, you know the expectations, you know where the exchanges will come back with questions and where you need to be more prepared. So I think this is a learning exercise. I think all of us have learned WhatsApp, all of us have
Right.
learned Instagram. This is just a learning exercise for one time sake, and then the overall return on outcome is much better than the investment that has been made. Rajesh ji, your thoughts as well.
Thank you
I
so
think
much.
I will talk about 2 points briefly here. When you talk about cost, probably we have a capacity building fund. So which probably would take some kind of up to some extent the capacity building fund can be utilized for the purpose of the listing things. One of the issues I think I felt when I discussed with some of those NPOs and when I had attended some of these sessions, I found was probably the fundraising document itself may be slightly a legal kind of document. So therefore, some of them are probably struggling to prepare this fundraising document. So there, I think the committee actually has taken a good step of bringing out trying to bring out a document which will probably easy to understand by everybody, and not much effort may be required to prepare that document. Correct me if I'm wrong, ma'am, and that's what I think.
Yeah,
Please.
I want to say one thing to everyone in the NGO space. First of all, like Vineet ji said, the first time the rigor, you will find it like a very steep curve. But after that, it's going to be much simpler, right? And just as with any process, so for 25 years, I've been talking to NPOs, right from the first time we did something like this at Give, you have to do it yourself. This is not something I would say just outsource to somebody and they will fill it up. They will do your they can maybe beautify your document. By the way, the fundraising document doesn't require any beautification. It requires facts, right?
Yeah.
And it's your own story. So I don't know if the exchanges give it to you as a Word doc, but download. There are many fundraising documents on both the exchanges. This is like my Jugaad solution. Convert the PDF into Word document and start editing, right? It's like writing your own story. You know your work very well. They are not asking you to report anything that you have to create or manufacture. It is what you want. And the beauty is it doesn't kind of put too many, the formats are not such that you have to work within a word limit or anything, right? And I can say for sure that anyone who's gone through a gold or platinum certification with GuideStar or desirable norms with Credibility Alliance, or who's done listing earlier with Give, it's not going to be difficult. And I know that many NGOs for foundations, they have done far more rigorous proposals. So it's just that, take advantage. I won't say ask AI to write it for you, but assemble everything together in one place. Spend a solid 1 week, morning, noon, night, creating this document. It's like your master template. In several fundraising groups of NGOs, I've heard a lot of people say that they have their base master template and then they reorient the projects depending on your pitch deck. So similarly, it's one solid effort that you need to put to. And we saw Mr. Ramesh Swami here from Unnati, who's come again and again for listing, right? So it surely works. Otherwise, he wouldn't be here and still with so much enthusiasm in today's call. So if you've really worked on your theory of change, you're very particular about how you track, if you're clear why you're doing what you're doing and you're tracking your progress. And currently our Form 10B for income tax is so rigorous for reporting. The statutory reporting has become so rigorous. The CA Institute, again, because of SSC and the conversations we've had, they put out those accounting guideline, the statutory reporting or for the financial statements from the last financial year. So I think it's making our jobs easier. But खुद को मरे बिना स्वर्ग नहीं मिलेगा. ये याद रखिए, मेरे first boss ने ये बोला था. I will always remember, you have to die to reach heaven, right? You can't ask someone, you can't outsource that. So do it yourself the first time and you will be in a very good place. And a lot of informal help available in the sector. I am sticking like Vineet stuck his neck out. On behalf of my organization, I am sticking my neck out. If anyone is keen to know how to do certain things, there are lots of people, including we have our Jyotsna ma'am on the SSC advisory committee, ready to help every single NGO do their, sorry ma'am if I'm overcommitting, but she helps everyone with their logical framework, which is the spine of your project for listing. She is ready to help you strengthen that. Okay.
Thank you. So
So no
another
need to
question
worry.
is, what is the approximate cost to list and fundraise at the social stock exchange?
So the registration fees is 5,000 and the annual listing charges is 25,000. But as Rajesh ji said, and we will kind of put it up to the committee as well, I think for the first couple of projects, to kind of help the ecosystem flourish, we have also kind of given out a first time incentive of 5 lakh rupees, for the initial couple of projects. Maybe that scheme can be extended based on the feedback from the committee as well as the guidance from the regulators. So, and these are charges which we allow as a structure to be accommodated in the project cost as well.
Sure.
Right. So it's not like it's going out of the NPO's pocket. It's something that they can configure in the fundraising as well. So 5,000 is for registration and 25,000 is the annual listing charges for the project.
Sure. Thank you.
Again, let me stick my neck out. You will be spending nothing less than 5 lakh worth of your own time, but see that as an investment. Put a couple of senior resources in the organization, the program head, the fundraising head, the finance head. You will have to give some dedicated time, but see that as a fantastic investment, because now that CSR has also come into this, it justifies that kind of investment of time, and the quality of work that you would put in to come up with a fundraising document. You can rehash that to go to every other single funder, and I'm sure they're going to love what you do, what you come up with. So here is a solid framework that has been created. So I wouldn't be, and if you're not looking at raising significant sums of money, and again, like, each new thing that comes up, don't think that's a solution for everybody, right? And which is why we kind of said you have to have at least a minimum 50 lakh annual expenditure basis, which means that 50% of NPOs are outside access directly to the social stock exchange. There will be other instruments other than ZC, ZP that will come over a period of time where NGOs can come together and raise money, etc. But to begin with, I would say anyone who has more than 5 crore annual expenditure, you should really look at this very seriously. 1 to 5 crore, see where you want to pitch and how you want to prepare, and keep a 2-year horizon on how you will prepare yourself and when you will list, because you have to do a lot of groundwork to bring your to decide the right balance of what should be the ask size and what is your confidence level to raise that kind of money. So it's not a what do you say, a single factor that will determine. So the cost is definitely an investment. It's a lot of dialogue, conversation, and iterations to arrive at your project size, and mapping your network and doing a lot of homework. So it's like, going with a fundraising campaign during, say, the Dan Utsav, and within X number of days, you're raising all that money together, but you would have put in 6 months of preparation. So this is like a big balloon. If you were raising a small balloon, say, through your crowdfunding during a festival period, this is like a big bunch of balloons together. Like, that is the magnified size of the same level of approach. So it really needs a mind shift change. Not like, isme kya hai, toh hi main karunga. You have to take the first step. So like I said, many NGOs did self-regulation before all this came. You have to really upgrade your own capacity. And I can only say, from someone who's been part of this conversation, it will not go down the drain. It is an investment worth making.
Thank you. So we have already exceeded our time for the webinar, but because there are some more questions, I take 3 more questions. The first question there is, how long does the registration process usually take? Are there any guidelines available?
Yes, so for registration, the complete toolkit is available on NSE website. So there's a dedicated page of a complete segment which covers the requirements, along with a video tutorial as well as a PDF guide, which gives you screen by screen how the registration process happens. In our general understanding, the registration process close to 2.5 months, right? Given that it is an iterative process, so what will happen is the NPO partners will submit a few documents. There could be a few observations from the exchange. So that's the best case scenario is what we look at, 2.5 months, but it could get extended at times given if the documents are not in order or if the exchange has few more queries.
Fine, sir. Thank you. What is the cost of social impact assessors? And where is this list available? Well, the list of social impact assessors is available on the websites of all the 3 SROs. You can check out ICMAI, SCO, as well as the other 2 SROs. Whosoever is member of our organization, we have put out the names. along with contact details of all our members, both individual as well as social impact assessment entities. You can check it out on the website of SROs. But then what is the role of social auditors? What is the role of social impact assessors in SSC? Vineet sir, can you respond to
I think,
that? Yeah.
yeah. So this is as per the regulatory guidelines. So impact assessment for all the projects which are listed on SSE is required on an annual basis. So that's how the role is defined, and I think it's driven by the regulatory requirements, which is available on the website. So mostly around the impact assessment pieces where they come into picture. So drafting the right DFRD stands very important to ensure that the impact assessors work with the NPO is eased out. So I just want to draw a little bit of attention that don't think of social impact assessment as a end line exercise. Please envisage this at the starting line itself when you're defining your KPIs, when you're defining your timelines, when you're defining what will be the source of truth, so that your impact assessment exercise is easier and well structured.
Sure. Thank you so much. So that's where we come to the end of this particular very, very interactive, knowledgeable session. Thank you, Rajesh sir from SEBI. Thank you, Vineet sir from National Stock Exchange. Thank you, Pushpa madam from GuideStar India. And I wholeheartedly thank all the participants who have spared their valuable time to join us for this afternoon interactive session. I promise you, we're going to come back with many more of such sessions, including a follow-up session on this particular session that we have it today, because I'm told that stock exchanges are in the process of bringing out some kind of frequently asked questions, especially in the context of the CSR amendment. We are definitely going to come out with that webinar soon, maybe within next few days, so that we can spread more awareness and more education amongst all the stakeholders. Thank you so much all for joining us. On behalf of ICMEI Social Auditors Organization, we thank you all for participating in this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you,
Thank
Rajesh.
you.
Thank you, Pushpa. Thank you to all the
Thank you.
participants.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.